Today, we are talking about timing the sale and purchase for a client, the same client. They're going to need the proceeds from their sale to buy their new home. This is super common. We see this all the time. It is definitely a bit of a dance, but we've accomplished this, and literally the closings happen on the same day, and it seems like a whirlwind. And how do you coordinate all of that? If your client does not need the proceeds from their home to buy their new home, great. I still suggest you follow this general outline just to make it a little less stressful on your client. Nobody wants to carry two mortgages for an extended period of time. So getting them on the same track of closing in the same general timeline is ideal. Okay, so you're timing the sale and the purchase. You're working with this client. You have the buy and the sell on your books, and you're like, this is amazing. It's a great commission opportunity. How do you coordinate this? Working with the buyer is a very intimate and rewarding experience. You get to know the client, their family, their needs, their goals, and you get a glimpse into the future of their life, right? They're talking about maybe the family they have or that they're planning. And it's super humbling, and getting into that seat with them and having that confidence and the rapport and understanding how they want to plan their life, I found it to be incredibly rewarding. So you guys make sure you're there for that entire process and asking the hard questions. You're going to have a formal buyer consultation with these people and help outline the entire process: budget, location, number of beds, bathrooms, finish quality, size. Understand what their goals are. And that's kind of something that we've talked about in the past. You're also going to have a formal listing presentation. You're going in and you're having this house staging consultation, sellers in the process of preparing their home. You have photos taken. You're literally having this property set to go live at the flip of a switch. That is the goal. So you're out and you're starting to tour homes with this client, and in the background, they're preparing their home for sale, knowing that they absolutely have to sell this home so that they have the funds to buy their new home. So you're outlining the goals and timeline and setting up the MLS search, getting them introduced to Zenlist, and they're out there, feet on the ground, touring homes. You have to talk to your client about some difficult situations and difficult topics. Help them understand that while this does happen and the closing is going to be on the same day, you have to prepare for a contingency. How do they feel about temporary housing? What does it look like if they have to live with their family for a week or 2 weeks or a month? Are Airbnb possibilities out there? Do they have friends that they can possibly crash with? It just depends on who these people are. Family size, pets, all of that can come into play. We do see people go into temp housing for anywhere from a couple of days up to a month, possibly, when you're timing a sell and a purchase. It depends on how fast moving the market is. If it's a seller's market, buyer's market, neutral market, everything is fluid in these situations. And how comfortable is your client putting their house on the market without having something under contract? That's where temp housing comes into play. Doing all of these things also affects your negotiation powers, and we're going to talk about what that looks like. So, market conditions. None of the market conditions are actually perfect for a sell buy. If it's a buyer's market, it might make it a little bit easier to coordinate purchasing a home, but then you also have the sale of the home to contend with, right? So how do you time that? Same thing with the seller's market. You have a little more, you have a little bit more time to possibly plan and buy something that is to your liking, but you don't necessarily have the confidence in selling the other property. There is no perfect market for timing the sell buy. So just get into these and plan and coordinate. Make sure the listing is totally prepared and ready to go live when your clients are ready to make that offer. So you've been out touring homes and you see one or two options that are available, and they're like, yeah, Matt, I would buy either 123 Main Street or 632 Apple Street. All of these are perfect options for my house. The last thing you want to do is sell your client's house and then have them make a decision that doesn't necessarily suit their needs. Like, be forced to buy a home. That is something we really try and avoid. This isn't a car. This is a huge asset. You want to be conscious of the fact that this is something they're going to live in with their family for 8, 10, 20 years maybe. So be prepared. to let them know that this doesn't have to happen. This isn't the only house on the market. That's where temp housing comes into play and other solutions have to be thought about. You can list the client's home for sale and start writing offers on 3 different scenarios. You have a house to close, which means your house is not on the market, or your house is on the market. Sorry, let's start over. You have a house to close. Your house is on the market, is under contract, and you already have a close date set. That is the most valuable position to be in as a buyer writing offers on a property. You have a house to sell, which means your house is on the market, but it is not under contract yet. That's good, but not great, because the seller that you're dealing with is not super confident that you're going to be able to sell that property. Remember, you have to close to buy. And you have a house to list. That means your house is totally prepared. Your photos are done. All you have to do is flip a switch and your house goes on the market. Also, not very advantageous for a seller to accept an offer depending on market conditions. So if the client's home is on the market and under contract, this is a really great position for your client to get out there and write offers. They can definitely write an offer with the exact same close date that they have on their sale contract. It's something that times out really well, but you don't want to be forced into a situation where they're like, yeah, let's just buy that because it's out there. Make sure it's the right home and it checks all the boxes. Go back and look at the notes from your buyer consultation and make sure that they're acting on what they were preaching earlier. Is it open concept? Does it have 3 bedrooms up, etc.? Make sure all of their things are aligned, and be the right consultant and make sure they're making the right decision. When your client has the property under contract and you're writing an offer, make sure you're outlining the terms of the sale to that prospective seller's broker. How far along are you in the deal? Have you passed mortgage contingency? Is this a cash buyer? Understand the terms that you're writing are going to reflect, or they're going to affect the seller's negotiations back at you. So if the client has a home on the market and it is not under contract and you're out there writing offers, depending on the offer, depending on the market conditions, this is going to affect how your client's offer is perceived. If it's a slow market and your client is happy to get an offer from anyone, including someone that has a property on the market that's not under contract, they're more likely to negotiate with you and give you some sort of timeline, usually 60 days, to get that property sold. So you're going to get out there and let them know how long you've been on the market, what the absorption rate is in that area. Outline all of the details, because they may not be familiar with the area that you're selling your property, and get them comfortable with the fact that, yes, you're very confident. Maybe you're going to do a price drop, another open house to accelerate the sale now that you have something that you're really interested in and potentially under contract. So if the client's home is not on the market and you let the agent know that, hey, once we get this property of yours under contract, we're going to flip the switch. We're going to get our client's property on the market, and we're very confident that it will sell within the first 7 days. Here's why. Here's the absorption rate. Here's some photos to share about the client. All of these options are on the table. Don't be scared to put any of these on the table with your client, depending on how they feel and how their anxiety is about moving out of a property without having something under contract. We do all of these options all the time, and some of them work better in market conditions that are, buyer seller friendly. So understand what market you're in and try and convince your client to navigate the process, understanding those conditions. Always have the contingency plan of temp housing or some sort of situation where they can move into if they don't necessarily close on the same day. So and also understand your client's comfort level and how they want to proceed. That's really important, and lay all of these out on the table so they know what they're getting themselves into. They're obviously going to know if their house goes on the market and it's sold, they're going to have nowhere to live by that close date, you would think, but make sure that they are very understanding of that. So it is very common for us to do the sell and purchase closing on the same day. What does that look like? So you have April 10th coming up, and that is the sale closing and the purchase closing. You're like, wow, how do you do that? So what we typically do is, on the sale of your client's property, they'll move out the day before, literally pack all the boxes, movers come, the trucks get loaded, the client is out of the house that day before the closing. And the reason is, you want to have the buyer in there for a final walkthrough that afternoon so they understand what condition the property is. is in, and they can go ahead and proceed with the closing that would be on the 10th that next day. And your client is out and moved in. Most moving companies have a solution for this. They'll either keep all the boxes on the truck or they'll move them into a storage facility. It happens all the time. They know that this process is underway where you're going to need to hold the boxes overnight. So the morning of the closing, your sale happens in the morning and your purchase happens immediately after noon or 1 or 2 o'clock. Closings usually last about 2 hours. So the closing happens. The proceeds are held by the title company, whatever amount of money that they need for the purchase. Those proceeds are then relayed to the purchase of their property. You do a final walkthrough of their purchase that morning because as a seller, you don't need to be at the closing. The buyer's purchase, the walkthrough goes well. You go to the closing in the afternoon. The closing happens around 2 or 3 o'clock. The moving truck then arrives at the house. All of the moving boxes get sorted out and into the house. Movers are quick. They're usually in and out in 3-4 hours. It's a whirlwind. That buyer typically does move into the house that afternoon. You get the bedroom set up. You sort of figure out how to live that day and fight another day, which is the next day. Hopefully they took off work and can start getting the kitchen sorted out, but it is an absolute whirlwind. Closings happen the same day all the time. Don't be scared to time it that way. Every day is money for a client. So understanding that is a reality. That's why we do it. Closing checklists, we always make sure that people have those. Gas is on, electric's on, internet's on. Some condos will require you to have reservations for loading docks and elevators and things like that. All processes we can talk about on a different call. Make sure that your clients have everything in order. It is a whirlwind of a day. Coordinating the movers, coordinating all the utilities, coordinating the closings. You have a great team around you. You have lawyers that are helping you through this process. Make sure you're leaning on them as well to ensure that the close date times line up, and they almost always do. As brokers, we love to sell and purchase for so many reasons: the relationship, the business, and the strategy involved. To me, it's super fulfilling, and watching that process unfold has been amazing. And if you do this right, you have a client for life. So make sure you're paying attention to all of the details. I'm going to open it up to questions and comments at this time. Let me know what you guys are thinking and if you've been through this process. Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys joining. If there's any questions while you're negotiating a deal, when you're strategizing a buy or a sell, please reach out. I'm happy to be here as a mentor, as a sounding board. I've gone through nearly every single sale purchase strategy involved in real estate. So don't be shy. Always reach out. Listing appointments, buyer consultations. If there's anything you're uncertain about, let me know. Have a great day, guys.